Hello.
Hello.
Hello, darling.
Hello, everyone. My name's Sydnie Christmas.
Is it?
In the 2024 season of Britain's Got Talent, one contestant stood out from the very first moment, Sydnie Christmas. But it wasn't just her voice that captured attention. It was her magnetic personality and confidence. The moment she stepped onto the stage, all eyes were on her, and her introduction was nothing short of hilarious. Sydnie casually introduced herself, telling the judges that her middle name was Mary, making her full name Sydnie Merry Christmas. The clever joke instantly lightened the mood, and her humor had the entire panel laughing. But it wasn't just about the name. Sydnie quickly followed up with her song choice, Tomorrow from the musical Annie. Now this was a bold choice, especially when you consider that Simon Cowell has openly criticized this very song in the past. His visible skepticism was clear when he groaned at the announcement. Still, Sydnie wasn't fazed. She laughed it off, cracking a joke about her long history with the song, telling the judges that she was singing it again, 24 years after she first performed it. This light-hearted moment led to a playful exchange with Alicia Dixon, who jokingly guessed Sydnie's age to be 24. Sydnie, always quick with a comeback, corrected her, revealing she was actually 28. The humor didn't stop there, as Sydnie added that she hoped to sing the song better than she did when she was just 4 years old, causing the entire panel to laugh even harder. But as Sydnie began to sing, something remarkable happened. The atmosphere in the room shifted from light-hearted jokes to complete silence. Her rendition of Tomorrow was stunning. Every note was precise, every emotion conveyed with sincerity, and the crowd couldn't help but be captivated. When she finished, the room erupted into thunderous applause, and all 4 judges stood up to give her a standing ovation. Amazed by the sheer talent she displayed, Amanda Holden couldn't help but praise Sydnie's natural charisma and the beauty of her heartfelt performance. Bruno Tonioli, never one to shy away from praise, called her performance not just a song, but art. Even Simon Cowell, known for his blunt criticism, admitted that Sydnie made him love a song he had long dismissed. It was a moment that not only stunned the judges, but also set Sydnie apart as a force to be reckoned with. As the applause continued, Amanda pressed the golden buzzer, sending Sydnie straight to the semifinals. This was a moment that would forever change Sydnie's life, and the audience knew they were witnessing something special. Sydnie Christmas's journey on Britain's Got Talent didn't end with her unforgettable audition. In fact, it only became more remarkable from that moment forward. After receiving the golden buzzer, Sydnie had earned a direct ticket to the semifinals. But what happened next was nothing short of legendary. During the live semifinal, Sydnie returned to the stage, and this time, she was ready to prove that her audition wasn't just a fluke. She chose to perform Frank Sinatra's iconic My Way, a song that's been sung by some of the greatest voices in history. And let me tell you, Sydnie didn't just perform it, she owned it. From the moment the music began, the room was electric with anticipation. But what followed was beyond anyone's expectations. Sydnie's voice soared with power and precision, effortlessly hitting every high note with clarity and emotion. It was a performance that left the audience and judges in awe. As the last note lingered in the air, Amanda Holden was visibly moved to tears. Bruno Tonioli, known for his dramatic flair, could hardly contain his admiration. He praised Sydnie's control and vocal strength, calling it a stunning performance. Alicia Dixon, always the heart of the panel, couldn't stop smiling throughout the performance and even commented that her heart was pounding in excitement. But the most profound reaction came from Simon Cowell, who had long been skeptical of the show's musical talent. This time, however, he wasn't just impressed, he was deeply moved. He admitted that Sydnie's performance was unlike anything he had seen on the show and said, "We've been waiting for someone like you." After the performance, fans and judges alike took to social media, praising her as one of the best performers of the evening. One fan even tweeted, "Goosebumps all over. Sydnie is the future of BGD." It was clear from the outpouring of support that Sydnie wasn't just a contestant. She was a superstar in the making. This semi-final performance not only solidified her place in the competition, but also silenced any critics who questioned her authenticity. Sydnie had come from the West End stage to prove that she had what it took to succeed on Britain's Got Talent, and that performance showed that she was just getting started. While Sydnie's performances on Britain's Got Talent won her the admiration of both the judges and the audience, they also sparked a wave of controversy that could not be ignored. It wasn't about her talent. Sydnie's incredible voice and stage presence were undeniable. The backlash was rooted in something else entirely: her extensive professional background. Sydnie Christmas wasn't just any contestant. Before stepping onto the BGT stage, she had already built a career in musical theater, starring in well-known productions like Starlight Express in Germany and Lazarus at London's King's Cross Theatre. She also made regular appearances on E4 Stage School. To some viewers, this was a red flag. They questioned whether Britain's Got Talent, a show known for discovering raw, undiscovered talent, was truly showcasing someone who had already made a name for herself in the theater world. The criticisms were sharp. Some fans accused the show of being fixed or not being fair to other contestants who had little to no professional experience. The core of the argument was that BGT was supposed to be about discovering new, untapped talent, and Sydnie's career seemed to contradict that idea. The revelation that several other contestants on the show were already established in their fields only added fuel to the fire. Sydnie, however, didn't let the criticism derail her. She stayed focused on her dream and continued to perform with passion, knowing that her journey was far from typical. In fact, this newfound attention sparked a larger conversation about the transparency of reality talent shows and whether they truly gave equal opportunities to unknown artists. Some fans even wondered if BGT was evolving into a platform for seasoned performers rather than undiscovered talent. Despite the accusations, Sydnie remained unshaken. She understood that this was part of the journey. Her road to the spotlight wasn't going to be easy, but she was determined to rise above the noise. And while the accusations of a fixed competition stung, she took them in stride, choosing instead to focus on the love and support she was receiving from the judges and her fans. It was clear that the road ahead would not be without obstacles, but Sydnie was ready for whatever came her way. What many fans didn't know about Sydnie Christmas was the struggle that nearly led her to walk away from it all. Behind her poised and confident performances on Britain's Got Talent, there was a deeply personal journey marked by countless rejections and self-doubt. Despite her extensive experience in musical theater, Sydnie's career path was anything but easy. In fact, there was a time when she seriously considered quitting. Sydnie had spent years auditioning for roles in London's prestigious West End, but the rejections kept coming, one after another. Doors seemed to close, and each setback took a toll on her confidence. She had worked hard to get where she was, but the lack of success made her question whether it was all worth it. Friends around her were settling down, starting families, and building careers, while she felt stuck, barely scraping by in London, unsure of where her next opportunity would come from. At her lowest point, Sydnie thought about giving up entirely. She reflected on her journey and wondered if her dream of a career in theater was just that, a dream. In a heartbreaking moment of honesty, she admitted that she had lost her belief in herself and wondered if it was time to leave the industry altogether. But despite all the frustration, something inside her told her not to quit. She decided to give it one last shot, an audition for Britain's Got Talent. In the lead up to the show, Sydnie reflected on how much she had gone through. If someone had told her at the start of the year that she would be standing on that stage, getting the golden buzzer and receiving worldwide recognition, she would have never believed it. She had faced numerous setbacks, watched others achieve their dreams while she was still fighting to be noticed. But she knew she had one last opportunity, and she took it. This final leap of faith led her to Britain's Got Talent. And as soon as she stepped onto that stage, everything changed. What started as a last-ditch effort to keep her dreams alive soon turned into a life-altering experience. The doubts that had once haunted her faded into the background as Sydnie embraced the moment, determined to show the world what she was capable of. The rest, as they say, is history. Sydnie Christmas's success story on Britain's Got Talent wasn't just about talent. It was about resilience. The journey that led her to that stage was filled with obstacles. Yet Sydney's determination never wavered. Despite the intense scrutiny and accusations of the show being fixed due to her professional experience, she stood firm, determined to prove that she deserved to be there. When Sydnie Christmas returned to the Britain's Got Talent stage for the live semifinals, there was an undeniable sense of anticipation in the air. Sydney's performance of My Way by Frank Sinatra would be her chance to prove once and for all that her golden buzzer moment wasn't just a fluke. It was the start of something monumental. And she did not disappoint. From the very first note, Sydney captivated the audience with her powerful, emotional rendition of the iconic classic. The raw emotion in her voice, paired with her commanding stage presence, was nothing short of electrifying. This wasn't just a performance, it was an experience. As the last notes of My Way echoed through the theater, the judges and the crowd were left in stunned silence, only to erupt in applause moments later. Amanda Holden, visibly moved, had tears in her eyes, overwhelmed by Sydney's heartfelt delivery. Bruno Tonioli, always the dramatic judge, gushed about Sydney's vocal control, especially the high notes, calling it stunning. Alicia Dixon, who had been rooting for Sydney from the very beginning, described how her heart was pounding throughout the performance, and she knew then that Sydney was a star on the rise. But it was Simon Cowell, the notoriously tough judge, whose reaction truly spoke volumes. After years of watching talented performers come and go, Simon, who had often been cynical about the BGT competition, had finally found someone who took him by surprise. He praised Sydney's power, presence, and vulnerability, elements that were rare to find in one performer. He admitted that he hadn't expected to be so moved and thanked Sydney for delivering a performance that was worthy of Britain's Got Talent. The reactions on social media were just as fervent. Fans flooded Twitter, commenting on how Sydney's voice gave them goosebumps and calling her the best performer of the night. The excitement wasn't just limited to her fans. People across the UK began to predict that she would go on to win the entire competition. For many, it was clear that Sydney had what it took to go all the way to the top. By the end of the semifinal, Sydney had secured her place in the final, and her reputation as one of the most talented and versatile performers on Britain's Got Talent was sealed. The judges' standing ovation wasn't just for her vocal prowess. It was a recognition of everything she had overcome to get to this point. She wasn't just a contestant anymore. She had become a contender. And the journey to her victory had just begun. By the time Sydnie Christmas reached the final stages of Britain's Got Talent, it was clear that she wasn't just another contestant. She was a force to be reckoned with. From her golden buzzer audition to her stunning semi-final performance, Sydney had proven time and again that her talent was something truly special. But it wasn't just about her voice. It was her unwavering determination, versatility, and undeniable charisma that made her a standout star. In a recent press conference, both Amanda Holden and Simon Cowell expressed their strong belief that Sydney had the potential to win the entire season. Amanda, who had been a fan of Sydney from the start, described her as the total package and praised her ability to connect with the audience on a deeper level. Simon, often known for his tough critiques, was more than impressed. He acknowledged that Sydney's consistency and passion were unmatched, emphasizing how important it was to have performers like her on the show. Fans, too, were increasingly vocal in their support for Sydney. Social media platforms exploded with praise after each of her performances, with people praising not just her singing ability, but also her authenticity. Comments flooded in from around the world, with fans calling her the best performer of the season and saying they were rooting for her all the way to the win. Sydney's performances had a way of leaving audiences in awe. Her voice, her stage presence, and her natural charisma made her an undeniable favorite. But beyond the judges and fans, there was something deeper happening with Sydney's rise to fame. She wasn't just winning hearts with her voice. She was winning respect for her journey. People admired her resilience in the face of countless rejections, her ability to push through the doubts and controversies, and her humble attitude despite the increasing attention. Sydney wasn't just a talented performer. She was an inspiration. With each performance, Sydney showed that she wasn't afraid to take risks. She had become a true artist, willing to put herself out there, to bare her soul on stage, and to give everything she had to each note. Whether it was tomorrow in her audition or my way in the semifinals, Sydnie had proven that she was a versatile and dynamic performer, someone capable of leaving an unforgettable mark on the competition. As the final approached, the anticipation around Sydnie's future in the competition grew stronger. She wasn't just another contestant hoping for a break. She was a true contender, with the potential to change the course of her career forever. The Britain's Got Talent stage had become a platform for her to showcase not just her talent, but her incredible potential. And if her journey was any indication, this was just the beginning of an extraordinary career. Despite her meteoric rise to fame on Britain's Got Talent, Sydnie Christmas has remained refreshingly grounded and focused on what truly matters: her craft, her fans, and her future. After her stunning performances on the BGT stage, Sydnie could have easily indulged in the whirlwind of celebrity status, but instead, she took a different approach. She returned to work. Shortly after her Golden Buzzer audition aired, Sydnie was spotted back at her job at a boutique gym in London, a role she had maintained to make ends meet while she pursued her dreams in musical theater. While most contestants would have taken time off to bask in their newfound fame, Sydnie remained humble and dedicated to her roots. In a heartfelt Instagram post, she shared a photo of herself at the gym, accompanied by a caption that expressed her gratitude to her supporters and acknowledged the surreal nature of her journey. Back to the grind after a surreal weekend. "Thank you so much for all your support. I'm beyond grateful," she wrote, reminding her followers that despite the fame, she was still working hard and staying connected to her everyday life. This down-to-earth attitude has earned Sydnie even more admiration from fans, who see her as not just a talented performer, but someone who knows the value of hard work and humility. She has proven that no matter how much success she achieves, she won't forget where she came from. This quality has made her even more relatable to her growing fan base, many of whom are inspired by her authenticity. Though her star is clearly rising, Sydnie has continued to focus on her ambitions, refusing to let the distractions of fame pull her away from her ultimate goals. She has spoken about the importance of staying true to herself, no matter how much her life changes. "It's still hard to believe that my life has changed so much in such a short time," she shared in an interview. "But I know that the work isn't done. This is just the beginning." The future looks incredibly bright for Sydnie Christmas. With a newfound platform and an army of fans behind her, her career is poised to soar. But even as she prepares for the next chapter, she remains rooted in her values and committed to the craft that got her here. Whether she's gracing a stage in London's West End or taking her talents to new platforms, Sydnie is clearly a performer who will continue to captivate audiences for years to come.